Hi everyone, I'm Joe. Today it's time for me to do a book review of A Hat Full of Sky, written by Pratchett. This is a fantasy novel first published in 2004. It is the 32nd Discworld novel and the second in the Tiffany Aching character subseries, of which there are 5 in total. So, first of all, what is the Discworld? It is, as the name might suggest, a flat, round, disc-shaped world which rests logically or illogically on the back of 4 extremely large elephants, as you do, which by themselves stand on the back of an even larger world turtle called Great Chewie, which swims through space as through east was water. Yes, this is definitely weird. Yes, this is definitely brilliant. You know, I have loved Discworld books for years, and many other people do. They've got a very strange setting which works extremely well with the books. And the synopsis of this particular book is based around the main character of Tiffany Aching, who, in the previous book, she found out that she has sort of witch abilities. She lives in a relatively newer area to the Discworld, which you're still getting used to in this book, called the Chalk, which is obviously called the Chalk for a very obvious reason. The soil and ground in the area is very chalky. It also has lots of big golden fields of wheat. It's farming country. And indeed, Tiffany Aching is a young teenage girl who lives with her parents on the family farm, the Aching family farm. And her grandmother was a very well-respected individual who almost certainly blatantly was indicated to be, not unofficially a witch, but she certainly had witch abilities, frankly, regardless of whether she's officially one or not. And Tiffany Aching is now coming into her sort of prime, into learning that she actually has certain talent for witch skills. And yeah, that gets into a lot of trouble, frankly, because, as you might expect, because the witching life is not an easy one, obviously. So at the start of the novel, she is going to see a new tutor witch, essentially, who will hopefully be able to teach her certain skills and abilities and sort of advance her witchcraft, essentially, or at least that's what she's hoping, called Miss Level, who is a very interesting individual. Let's say, I don't want to say too much about Miss Level, but she's unique, really is quite unusual in many respects. And she goes there thinking that she's obviously going to be learning about, ancient arcane arts and, sort of potions and, the really sort of traditional witchy things, stereotypical witchy things. Actually, she learns about how to do chores and about how to take care of the goats and things that she didn't exactly expect, considering she's learning from a, this respected witch. But actually, that is part of being a witch. Being a witch is not all magic. Most of it is actually not. It's about just being part of the community and helping people with everyday problems. Actually using magical abilities, the witch abilities, is relatively rare by comparison, although very, very important by itself. So she's finding it a bit tough going because, she's expecting one way in the world and it's not quite going that way. And by itself, this is a really interesting plotline. However, there's another thing that starts happening, and this is obviously the main plotline, and that is one day she goes essentially borrowing, which is an ability that, if you've read any of the witches books, you will know that it's an ability that the character Granny Weatherwax uses. Essentially, she sends her mind off to sort of look through the eyes and sort of borrow the senses of another creature. She does this just to, dry in a hat, and she didn't think anything of it, being a very young witch. And let's just say this attracts attention, her borrowing, because when she goes borrowing, her body is vacant, her mind is not literally attached to her body, it's off somewhere else. And something takes note of this. And yeah, it doesn't go well for Tiffany, or indeed other people, because, an empty body lying around could be useful. Not for Tiffany, but for other people. So and it starts spiraling outward from there, and it's a strange plot in certain respects, but a very interesting one, and one that I really enjoyed. I won't say more because I didn't know more about it myself, and I don't think it will do anybody any good to know more about the plot, but it's a very interesting one, and one that I really do think is phenomenally well developed. And one of the ways that it's really well developed is the characters. The characters in the book are, as always, they always have humour to them, they always have true emotion and depth, and they always feel or feel they fit into the world. Tiffany Aching, obviously as the main character, as this young, want-to-be witch, she works very well. I'm still getting used to her myself, being obviously only the second book, but she's a very interesting character and one that's got a very unusual mind. I mean, for instance, she doesn't go to school, she merely goes to whatever classes or sort of learning sessions she can find at the local fair when it comes around. And for instance, one of the things that she did is she knew that knowing language would be useful, so she bought herself a dictionary. The problem is nobody told her how you use a dictionary, so she used dictionary in the same way that I read this book. Literally started on page 1 and went through to the last page. That's not entirely the normal way you deal with dictionaries. So as a result, her language skills are unusual, and that sort of is quite an interesting and powerful example of how her psychology works. And indeed, it works well, her psychology, with other characters. Miss Level, the tutor witch that she deals with, is a unique character. As I said, I don't want to say too much about Miss Level because she really is odd in ways that I just can't say. I don't want to risk it. But she has a very interesting viewpoint, let's say. If you've read the book, you'll know what I mean. It's a viewpoint that really can't be shared by many other people, like ever. Even other witches don't share this particular viewpoint of Miss Level, let's say. And it's interesting. You also have the character of Granny Weatherwax, who obviously is in the witches books, who comes into this as kind of like, she's known as, the most powerful witch that's ever lived, and she's sort of trying to help out Tiffany and trying to get used to the witching world. So it's interesting to see Granny Weatherwax again and see how she's sort of evolved. And obviously she's not the main character in this, although she's an important one. It's interesting to see how she fits into this world as well as fit into her original world when she's actually the sort of leading role in the witches books, which is interesting by itself. And there's another set of characters called the We Three Men, which happens to be the name of the first book in the Tiffany Aching series. And the We Three Men are very small, blue-skinned pixies, in their own words. They have ginger hair, and they are basically Terry Pratchett, smiling as he makes fun of pixies and indeed of Scotland, because the We Three Men are blatantly meant to be Scottish, and they have a lot of sort of stereotypical, the really silly sort of, tropes of Scottish people turned up to a really high level. But that Terry Pratchett's never been mean about it. He's just enjoying himself, just saying how silly some of these tropes about, for instance, Scottish people or any other individual is. And that sense of fun is present in all of the characters, and indeed it is present even in the world itself, which in this book is the chalk. It's this big open land with rolling hills and cornfields and little copses of trees and little lakes and stuff, and obviously farms and villages around. It's a different environment than any of the previous Discworld books, because generally, since the witches books are based in the Ramtops, which is essentially Wales in the UK, which, it's all like hilly and craggy with mountains and lots of big forests everywhere. You've got the Discworld version of London in Ankh-Morpork, and you've got other environments. So having this big open rolling hills environment though is an interesting one, and one that really works well because the characters are trying to learn who they are and where they fit into the world, and having the environment with the rolling hills where you can see for miles over there or over there, works well, because you get the feeling that they are truly trying to expand their horizons, both physically and quite literally, as well as, you know, mentally. They're trying to be more than they originally were, you know, when they were younger, and it works really well overall. And this will lead on to the final part of this review, which is essentially where I'll talk about the ideas and the themes of the book. And one of the main ones in this is about essentially, obviously due to Tiffany Aching, knowing yourself and knowing who you are, being confident in not just your own skin, but in your own place in the world. Because Tiffany knows who she is, or at least she thinks she does, and she knows where she fits in the world, or at least, again, she thinks she does. But she realises that you can't always find your own place in the world entirely by yourself. Sometimes, you know, you need to ask for help. I mean, humans and humanity is we are social creatures by design. We're not designed to be, you know, purely solitary all the time, obviously. So it's about coming to accept that sometimes you need to interact with people to find out who you are, what you are, and find your way in the world, because that just, it works better when we're social, because we're literally biologically designed for it on a very fundamental level. And this has also the idea of being honest with yourself to go along with this. Don't delude yourself with thinking that you are one thing and that's all you can be. If you've been honest with yourself, you know that, at least it's trying to say that, try to accept that you may be one thing at the moment, but that doesn't mean that you are always going to be this person, this individual that does these things or is known for these things. You can be more than this. I mean, I will hopefully be different one day than I am now, in perfectly beneficial ways. Everybody hopefully can be that. Whether you get a chance to that, of course, is something that the book also says. It's saying that, yes, everybody's got the potential to be more, but it doesn't guarantee you will. Some people, sadly, don't get the opportunities to, you know, be more than what they could be and to truly live up to their potential. And sadly, that is just the way the world works. Not everybody has the ability to fit into the world in the fully expanded way they could be, which is a very interesting one that really delves into, you know, just being realistic and just working in the world that you live in, which I personally love. And the final little point I'm going to say is this is also about essentially alternative family, because whilst Tiffany obviously lives on her family farm and she does love her family and such, she also has alternative family in the witches that she starts getting to know, and the other people that, you know, I mean, even the wee men are almost a alternative family in a strange way. It's about knowing who you work with and who you truly like in your life and want to be there, and about accepting them for who they are. Which is, I mean, there are powerful messages in this actually, and overall it is a really well written book with a great plot line, great characters, great world building, and really interesting and really powerful, meaningful messages. I mean, it's very introspective about looking at yourself and looking at the wider world that you hopefully can try and fit into. And one that I would recommend, although this is the second Tiffany Aching book, so I wouldn't read this one first. Read The Wee Men first. And saying that, that is it for this review. I will link this book on the Goodreads in the description box below. All my social media links can be found in the description box below as well. And with that said, that is it for this video. And if you would like to know more about this book, or you've got any thoughts, then please leave a comment and we can have a discussion. And with that, that is it. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you another day. Bye for now.